Welcome to the Halliwell Manor. I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And we are here to discuss Season 6, Episode 15 of Charmed.
I Dream of Phoebe.
Okay, I have two things to say right off the bat, and they're going to be contradictory.
Okay, Britta.
Yes, you see this coming. I really like this episode, and my God, this is so racist.
It feels so racist. It's like the stereotypical early 2000s Middle Eastern equals terrorist racism.
Yeah, although not strictly speaking that. I mean, it's genies, and it's all very maybe let's not do this in, the year of our Lord 2024, except it wasn't 2024, but it wasn't okay back then either, so...
It's just, they made a lot of choices that they didn't need to make.
Yeah, and the thing is, otherwise, this is a fun, hokey, late Charmed episode. Like, I mean,
they even make jokes about how Phoebe's like, oh, I have to wear the stupid costume. I'm the one who got cursed.
Yeah, like, we're biting at the fourth wall a lot more in these seasons.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to wait until we get to that scene. But I do love that scene because it does genuinely just feel like the actress is talking shit about the show, which is a lot of fun. But, yeah, there's a lot of, hey, maybe this isn't a great portrayal of the Middle East, which is yeah, we're also not qualified to talk about this.
We're not. I just know that it made me really uncomfortable. I was like, ooh, no.
Yeah.
This would definitely be an episode I would not recommend to anyone because it feels kind of offensive.
Yeah. But you know what? It's also... we all know what we're doing here. This is Charmed. We have a thing. We've been rewatching Sabrina the Teenage Witch for some reason.
I just came downstairs one night and you were watching it, so I think you're the one who needs to explain why that rewatch is happening.
I literally just put it on. It was like the first thing that I was like, you know what, fine, whatever, I'll just put it on. And then we kept going, you could have changed it at any time, but whatever. But there's a game we play with the opening credits of Sabrina, because in the opening credits, the first opening credits of Sabrina, there's a bit where she changes outfits in the mirror, and then, every episode ends with there's a different outfit.
They do a couch gag.
Yeah, they
basically.
do a couch gag. And the game that we played while they had that intro was racist or not racist. Because most of the time...
We would guess before the outfit reveal if it was going to be racist or not.
Yes. Most of the time it was just her dressed as like a crab and saying, boy, I sure hope this episode doesn't make you crabby. Or her dressed as a chef saying, we cooked up a really good episode for you tonight. Usually it's dumb shit like that.
He's not exaggerating. It's terrible.
But sometimes it's just racist. And I'm like, this was late for that. It feels late for that. I mean, again, it was never appropriate.
I mean, Sabrina the Teenage Witch is running at the same time as Charmed, so...
But, like, there's a lot of stuff where you're like... Maybe don't put Melissa Joan Hart in a geisha outfit and have her do an accent. And I appreciate that they don't have Alyssa Milano doing the accent when she becomes a genie in this episode. It feels like a real low bar, but I appreciate they didn't do that.
I actually just saw a clip of Jon Stewart, like, from like, this month.
Yeah.
Where he was talking about something racist that Trump had said, and he was like, and if this was the old show, I would have done the voices. Like, he would have done the black accent. And he's like, but now I know that's wrong, and I will not be doing that. Which is to say that, the past is a foreign land.
Or to quote 30 Rock, don't imitate other races.
I'm sorry, did you just quote 30 Rock?
Yes, I did. I've been very aware of it since we talked about this.
Just for listeners who don't listen to every single podcast we do.
This also might have just been a real life conversation we had.
No, we definitely talked about it on the podcast.
Okay.
When we did Welcome to the End, when we talked about the finale of 30 Rock, I mentioned how so many phrases from 30 Rock worked their way into my everyday language. And Max was like, no, they haven't, Oprah. And And now I have to point it out to him every time one of us uses a 30 Rock phrase.
Which I didn't
It
even...
happens a lot.
I didn't even think about it. Like, I'm aware when I'm making Simpsons references, but, like, 30 Rock became background language so thoroughly I did not clock it.
Yep. Wait, should we talk about Charmed?
Yeah, we should actually get into this episode. So, Phoebe's busy at work because she's a busy work lady who's got a lot of busy work to do.
Yep, she goes to talk to her assistant, and her assistant...
Speaking of things that have aged poorly...
Yeah. So, her assistant has all of the calls she's gotten from various people seeking help or advice, and one of them... it's not good.
Yeah, it's cross-dressers, which I don't feel like I hear as a thing much anymore, although presumably it still exists.
We don't have the time to delve into that.
Yeah, like, we live in a world where people have more language to express their differing gender identities than ever. I don't know where cross-dressing lands on that, because it's definitely still, like, a thing. There are people who enjoy wearing clothes that weren't specifically tailored for the gender they identify with, and that doesn't mean that they necessarily would identify as a different gender. Maybe they just like wearing clothes that, But I am profoundly unqualified to talk about this. I feel like I haven't heard anyone talk about cross-dressing in a really long time, unless they're, TERFs, which is... So Phoebe breezes past her assistant.
Wait, her assistant's like, your nephew called. And she's like, Chris?
Oh my god, Phoebe. How are you? You are a witch, and you've had to hide that from the world while being a celebrity. And how are you this bad at keeping secrets?
Also, this means that in her head, she's already thinking of Chris as her nephew. Like, that neuron has been changed in her brain, and I don't buy it. Like, at this point, Phoebe wants to get caught.
Although, let's not let Piper off the hook here, because the assistant says, no, Wyatt, although, to be fair, I think Piper was the one who dialed. And I'm like, okay, wait, so Piper dialed Phoebe's work number and then gave the phone to Wyatt so he could babble into it, hoping that Phoebe would be the one to pick up, even though she knows Phoebe has an assistant.
Or even worse, Piper called and was, like, talking as Wyatt, and was like, Aunt Phoebe, come home, we miss you. You've been at work for 10 minutes. You've never been at work that long before.
I mean, any scenario is bizarre and weird. Don't do that. I love our child more than anything on earth. I'm not going to call someone, especially not at work, and put her on the phone to talk to them. It's never fun for anyone.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk to someone else's child on the phone. Even if you're Phoebe and you have the weird obsessive thing with Wyatt, which she pretty thoroughly has dropped at this point. Because she's all about making her own baby now. She doesn't give a shit about Wyatt anymore. We're over the whole I'm weirdly obsessed with Wyatt thing.
Well, she had a vision
of being pregnant, and now she has to make it come true.
Everybody knows that's what you're supposed to do with visions.
That's how visions work. Anyway, no.
Chris was not the one who called her. It was Wyatt. But Chris is waiting in her office.
I also don't want to skip over the bananas line of, I thought you only had one nephew. Oh, I do, but maybe someday.
Oh my god. You know what? My new headcanon is that Phoebe at this point is just trying to get caught. She's just sick of all of this.
So, yes, Chris is waiting for Phoebe in her office, and I really love Chris. It's bizarre how he's become my favorite character on this show.
I mean, I don't know that become is the right word. Our listeners will recall that before Chris got here, we kept talking about how much we wanted Chris to get here.
Yeah, but, like, we were excited because of how weird his plot is. And, Drew Fuller's cold, dead shark eyes. But, like, I genuinely enjoy Chris as a character. He's awful. And he continues to be awful in this episode.
Okay, no, I am Team Chris in this episode.
Yeah. Because
Chris is like, hey, Phoebe... Okay, this part I'm not Team Chris, because...
The part where he tries to use genie magic to get his parents to have sex.
You know what, It's
not great, but also he doesn't
The alternative is not existing?
Yeah.
Okay, So he says he tells Phoebe basically that he's been doing the math and he's realized and he's gone to some soothsayers.
I've gone to people who actually use their psychic powers, Phoebe.
And he's realized that basically if Piper doesn't get pregnant this cycle, he's not going to exist anymore. And okay, this is the tiny part where I'm not Team Chris.
Yes.
You didn't do the math before you traveled back in time to make sure you didn't fuck it up?
I mean...
Like, that seems like the kind of thing you should have planned for before you started time traveling. I mean, that's time travel 101, Chris!
Yeah, the main thing that you do when you go back in time is not break up your parents, which Phoebe points out. Phoebe's like, Chris, like, I feel bad for you, but also, you directly broke up your parents. And
yeah, you made your bed, now you have to cease existing in it.
The profound lack of sympathy Phoebe has for Chris in this episode and next episode is shocking. It is shocking how little she cares whether or not her nephew lives or dies.
But as I said, I am Team Chris because I am Team does not want to disappear out of existence.
Yeah, he's like, look, we need to rehook my parents up. And she says, you know, most kids who break up their parents' marriages don't do it on purpose. And I'm like, I feel like it's a bad thing to blame children for breaking up their parents' marriages. Like, you blame the parents because they decided to have kids. It's not the kids' fault that the stress of raising children accelerated a breakup. Most kids who are the cause of their parents' divorce. Jesus fucking... Is this the energy you're bringing to your column?
Right? Somebody writes into Phoebe. They're like, hey, I'm 13 years old and my parents won't stop fighting and I feel like it's because I'm having so much trouble in school and now their divorce is all my fault. And Phoebe's like, yeah, sounds like it is.
Yeah, have you ever thought about doing better in school?
Oh, but she's like, Piper's just... It took her so long to get over... Leo, and now she's finally starting to heal and have good sex with Fireman Dan. Can't you just whatever.
It was neighbor Dan.
What?
The new guy.
Whatever. She's like, can't you just let her move on? And it's like, no! No, I can't, because as previously stated, I will cease to exist.
And Chris is like, look, you're willing to help complete strangers, but not your own family, and Phoebe does not say the thing I was expecting her to say, which is, yeah, they pay me to do that.
Oh, I was going to say the thing she doesn't say is, I never help anyone. What are you talking about? Although, he makes his point by, like, waving a letter in her face, and Phoebe, to be contrary, grabs a hold of the letter and has the first premonition she's had in, like, 10 episodes.
And also, it's a trap. This is the first time she's had a premonition forever, and it's a trap that the demon of this episode set up for her.
But Chris has come to her with his problem. He waved a letter to demonstrate you care about this person, this random person you don't know more than me, and she immediately was like, uh-oh, Chris, you better orb me to...
The Middle East, which is a very, very large place, but we're in the Middle East. You can tell they got the garage band backing track that's like desert rhythm.
Yeah, anyway, they're inside the cave that the first Iron Man movie will shoot in.
Yes, and two guys in stereotypical Middle Eastern outfits try to attack them. We didn't say what the premonition was. It was of this lady being attacked by demons. These two guys with, the
kind of desert wear, face covering stuff.
Yeah, and they have those
scimitars?
Swords. Yeah, I couldn't remember the name. They have those, and they like rush them, and Phoebe just throws a couple of potions. I guess she just had a bunch of generic vanquishing potions like in her desk at work, which makes sense,
I mean, I would wear a tactical vest with them in my pockets at all time if I was one of the charmed ones.
Yeah.
But also, these two guys are demons. Why are they running at her with a sword?
Yeah, this is a job for energy balls, one would assume.
Right?
I mean, although honestly, given how often the charmed ones, even Chris right here, shrug off energy balls and stuff, maybe swords would be the better option.
I guess.
But they get blown up. A guy in a on a flying carpet.
A terribly CGI'd flying carpet.
The special effect gets so awful.
They spent all their money on that dragon back in the first episode of this season. They don't have any money left right now.
He hits Chris with a magic dart. It's very Beckett Mariner on Orion.
Yes, in Star Trek Lower Decks, where she just keeps getting hit. She just keeps getting, like...
stabbed in the shoulder.
Yeah, but she just keeps getting, like, the stray shots.
Yeah. Chris gets wanged by an energy ball, which he does take like a champ. He falls on the ground, but then he just telekinetically throws series of shelves at the guy, and he scampers like a scared little bunny.
And the guy drops a genie bottle.
It is not French Stewart this time.
Yes, and I just want to point out this is a genie bottle like the one that appears on the television sitcom I Dream of Jeannie, as opposed to the lamp that you would see a genie come out of in an Aladdin story.
Yes, a post-Disney's Aladdin story.
I don't think that Disney's Aladdin was the first one to use that traditional oil lamp as the genie's lamp.
I mean, no, probably not. But, I don't know, I feel like I Dream of Jeannie kind of solidified the vase thing into pop culture, and then Disney's Aladdin supplanted it. Because I know that's just how oil lamps were, and in the story, there was the original story, there was the Genie of the Lamp, and then there was the Genie of the Ring, because the original Aladdin story's not
Also,
great.
there was no only 3 wishes, and also there was no you can't make people fall in love with you. Also, love had nothing to do with it in that story.
Yes. But Phoebe picks up the lamp and gives it a little rub, which, oh my god, Phoebe. Oh my god. Is it your first day? You've already dealt with this. You had the French Stewart Genie episode, which I will argue is the source of her levitation power.
How so?
Because she wished for an active power. Actually, she didn't. She said she'd like to have an active power, and he just took that as a wish, which, if you can do that as a genie...
That's bullshit.
Yeah. But then he gave her the Dragon Warlock's flight power, and then, she didn't have it at the end of the episode, but then, next season rolls around, guess who suddenly has levitation out of nowhere?
Okay, so I know that you fell off of watching What We Do in the Shadows with me.
Yes.
But I do want to call out What We Do in the Shadows as having an amazing scene where Guillermo essentially acts as a lawyer on Nandor's behalf to negotiate with the genie that his wish will actually do what it's supposed to do.
So the genie comes out of the lamp, and Okay. It's some rough stuff, folks.
Well, I mean, it's a genie, right? So it's a person who is magically bound to the person who holds the bottle. In this case, I guess not a lamp. To the person who holds the bottle, and calls them like master, and wears skimpy clothes. It's fetishistic.
Yes, and the actress is doing what the actress is doing an accent, a kind of broad accent, and to be fair to the writers of Charmed, this is a demon who is trying to trick the Charmed ones into trusting her. So
it's still a choice that was made.
It's still a choice that was made, and she's doing this
to do a very broad accent.
Yeah, she's playing a very specific character, and it's very uncomfortable. Again, not qualified to talk about this, but the whole thing feels very in a post-Problem with Apu world. They probably would not have made these choices. Mm-hmm. I was just remembering that bit in that documentary where they had all the actors and they had them all talking about the moments where they go into an audition and then someone asks them to do the accent.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. Also, her doing this kind of exaggerated, submissive genie, right? I like you said, and spoiler, this is to trick Phoebe. This is all a trick. But I don't know. I feel like in a modern version, they would call that out more and make it less whatever this is.
Or maybe just not do this plot.
Or just don't do this plot. Just don't do this plot. You know what? You know what Charmed could use?
What?
Vengeance demons.
Yeah, because it's the same general deal as a genie plot, but you don't have to deal with, hey, this is something we directly lifted from another culture and then bastardized to fit into, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels weird to be like, if they had just gone with a Barbara Eden type, maybe this would feel less weird.
Well, okay, so when we're talking about stories about genies, we're inherently already leaning heavily on Arabian Nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which itself is a book that was created to kind of fetishize the Middle East to a Western audience. So we're already starting from -1 before we put one word on the page. We're starting at a negative.
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, I brought up the Vengeance Demons because I believe it was during our discussion of the French Stewart Genie episode that I realized that Vengeance Demon is the magical creature I would most like to be.
Yeah. So the genie pops out of the lamp and she's like, "How can I serve you, master?" And Alyssa Milano is like, "Wait." Oh, God. She's like, "Wait. The woman who wrote the letter, Ginny, was actually a genie?"
It's actually really annoying that they keep, whenever somebody says like that she's a genie later, she's like, Ginny. It's like, stop that. Stop it. Don't do that. Whatever it is you're doing, don't do it.
She does this weird, exaggerated head turn to Chris, and Chris is like, "I don't want to deal. I'm gonna stop existing. I don't have time for a comedy plot."
Exactly. I don't have time for any of your shenanigans, Phoebe.
So we have the opening shots of San Francisco. Nice shout out to producer Alyssa Milano.
They do some like artistic through the fog shots that I feel like we haven't seen before in establishing San Francisco shots.
We're in the sunroom where Leo is healing Chris. I like how last episode nobody was trusting Chris because of the whole him inviting a demon into the house to scan Wyatt for evil thing. And as in every episode with Chris, by the next episode, they've completely forgotten whether or not they're angry with him or not. Leo is still angry with him.
Okay,
but...
so we don't actually really see a lot of that. Phoebe's not angry at him because she knows his secret now, so she knows what's going on. And Leo is not outwardly displaying signs of anger at this point, but he does say later on that the elders are going to send him back to his time. They're done with him. Okay.
So the fake backstory that Ginny gives them, which honestly, I mean, I guess it's not that much of a fake backstory. It's just her origin is different. But she's like, "Hey, so I've been a genie for like 1,000 years, and I've been passed around from demon to demon, you know, granting their wishes and doing whatever evil deeds, you know, they wanted me to do. And then I figured, hey, why don't I drop a line to, you know, famous advice columnist and charmed one, Phoebe Halliwell, and maybe she could stop me from serving evil for my entire existence."
She does say that the demon she was serving, you know, immediately prior to Phoebe getting her was the worst demon she's ever served. It's weird to me that in her backstory, even if it is a fake backstory, she's a genie that is, like, specific to demons. I mean, she's not specific to demons, but, like, demons have been circulating her.
Which, I mean, makes sense if you know.
It's just funny to think about a genie who is, like, bound to demons over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, if you're a demon, you want to get a genie.
And she's like, "So, if you could wish me free..." And Phoebe's like, no wishes. I know genies are tricksters. We already had a plot about this way back when in season, I'm going to say 2. I'm pretty sure it was 2.
Okay, I don't know if this is, okay. I know, because I've already watched this episode.
Yes.
That freeing the genie is a trap. That when you wish, Spoilers, here's the plot. When you wish for the genie to be freed, you yourself become bound.
Yes. Which is a thing I've seen in other stuff. I think it's a good conceit.
Nonetheless, I feel like it is a moral imperative if you come across a genie to wish them free, even if that is a possible consequence.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking about in Fables, which, Fables also has its own issues. It was written by very right-wing dude, Bill Willingham, and has... The first book is so good, and the series is... It's still pretty solid through the rest of the run. Like, honestly, you should... If you're going to read it, you could just read the first volume and be good. You have a good self-contained story there. But, like... It's really good, but then occasionally stuff will happen where you're like, oh, right, he's really right-wing. And one of the things with it is when they deal with Jinn.
Mm-hmm.
Where one of the things with Jinn is that you can't free them because they are essentially demons, and their first act is always that they eat their former master after they're freed, which I think is actually probably pretty close to what they were actually like in myths. Like,
that would make sense if they were, like, bound.
Yeah. Because in the world of Fables, and I did no research, but it seems maybe right, I don't know, that, they are literally just demons who are,
In the world of Charmed...
Yes.
You gotta free the genie. Sorry. Even if it means you have to dress like Barbara Eden for an episode, Phoebe.
Even if you have to deal with French Stewart.
Exactly.
Well, so...
Oh, God. Okay. But you know what? Forget about the genie. Let's talk about Chris trying to get his parents laid.
Yeah, because Chris is like, hey, why don't we get Piper on this? Piper can work with Leo to solve this genie problem. And Phoebe's like, no, she has a date with Fireman Greg. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Chris, because Leo's in the room, Chris is like, Leo, are you gonna let that happen? Don't you even care that she's fucking some other guy?
And Leo's like, no, we've worked very hard to establish separate lives, And Chris is like, what the fuck are you talking? You're here all the time.
Also, you said that in, like, a very, like, dorky Leo voice.
Yeah.
But if we're not worried about Chris getting conceived, they have come to a comfortable and responsible co-parenting relationship.
It's just...
Other than the fact that it doesn't... We can't relitigate this.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense for them to be broken up at all.
Yeah. He's here all the time. We say it every episode. Chris points it out here. Chris is like, I'm sorry. Didn't you have a whole, like, forbidden love, like, destined lovers thing? You fought, like, heaven and earth to be together. And now what? You're just gonna let some fireman drill her because you, I don't know, don't feel like getting off the couch and talking about your why are you not together? Chris points out, why are you not together? You're here all the time, Leo.
Because of Chris. Chris, it's your fault. It's your fault they're not together.
I mean, honestly, I don't feel like it is. I don't feel like getting your dad a promotion would logically click with my parents are going to be divorced now.
Okay, I kind of have to go back through the episodes and trace out the steps of it then.
Yeah.
But I feel like it couldn't have helped sending his dad to the Valkyries.
No, the Valkyries thing, yes.
But we talked about it at the time. The Valkyries thing doesn't really make a lot of sense after the context of who Chris is gets revealed, which is one of the reasons that you will never, ever convince me that they knew who Chris was when they wrote the story.
Yeah, the Valkyries thing. Why would you trap Leo on the island of the Valkyries for like 3 months?
Makes no sense. But it couldn't have been good for his marriage.
I don't know. I actually think Piper getting a 3-month break from Leo would do wonders for their marriage.
Man! Okay, wait, so did we just answer our own question? The reason that they're divorced now is because Leo is there all the time, reminding Piper why she doesn't want to be with him.
Fair. I mean, I don't get why she's with Fireman Greg. Like...
Firemen are sexy.
I guess.
Firemen are super sexy. Haven't you watched Station 19?
No, and I'm not going to because I know it's a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy, so I'm assuming they kill the whole cast off every season.
Basically. But, you know, there's a really cute lesbian couple in it.
Until they both die. Until one dies.
I don't want to spoil our listeners.
Until one becomes a ghost.
Hit 10 seconds forward or whatever. They both live to the finale together and happy. They do not bury their gays.
You haven't seen the new season of Grey's Anatomy yet, though.
Oh, yeah. Station 19 is over, but I guess they could always kill them off in Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, I'm sure as soon as What's-His-Face is like, I'm done being a fireman. I'm going back to being a neurosurgeon or whatever his deal is.
Okay, so the thing is, Ben Warren is absolutely going to go back to Grey's. No question about it.
He's going to go back and he's going to be like, oh, by the way, my old firehouse collapsed and everyone died.
One of the characters in the couple that I just mentioned actually started on Grey's Anatomy. And the other one, it was the Station 19 original, but I guess she'll probably show up on Grey's. There's a lot of Grey's Station 19 crossover. Her brother died in a really horrible way. Not the one who's Station 19 original, the one who's originally on Grey's. Justice for DeLuca. It's not okay. He was Meredith's best boyfriend ever. And all right, let's talk about Charmed.
Why does anyone date Meredith, too? I mean, I know working at Grace Sloan Memorial Hospital is already a death sentence, but, like, dating her is a death sentence on top of that. An airplane hit one of her boyfriends, her fiancé.
No. Well, okay.
And the other one died the same way Dr. Drake Ramore died on Days of Our Lives and Friends. He was the only doctor who was talented enough to save himself.
Yeah, he's a neurosurgeon who is the only one who could have saved himself.
Which is literally what happened to Drake Ramore.
That episode, because you're inside his head while he's thinking like all of the stuff they should be doing that they're not doing.
Oh, is that Eric Dane? Speaking of Charmed.
No, it's no, unfortunately. It's
Patrick Dempsey.
It's Patrick Dempsey, yeah.
Was Eric Dane the one where an airplane hit him?
Yeah, an airplane fell on Eric Dane. He's the Sloan and Grace Sloan Memorial.
That hospital should have a way longer name, shouldn't it? Should be Grace Sloan, that guy who got called a homophobic slur.
Oh, so what happened is that the people who survived the plane crash sued Grace Sloan because it was their fault, basically.
What, was the hospital in the way of their plane?
No, they were on an emergency medical, plane, delivering stuff. And the hospital hadn't properly vetted the transportation people, and they definitely were, not up to... Well, obviously they weren't. They crashed, and a bunch of people died. Anyway, so they sue the hospital, and they get a big payout, and then they end up using that payout to buy the hospital, so that's why those are the two who get a memorial, and not, everyone else. Should we just scrap this episode and just do one episode? Just do, a single episode of Welcome to Grace Sloan Memorial?
Are we gonna do the episode where a guy has a bomb up his butt?
Ah, it is a good episode. It's a two-parter, though, but Christina Ricci is the guest star in it. Wait, were you just making something up?
No, I was aware that there was an episode where a guy has a bomb up his butt.
Also, Coach Taylor is in it.
Is he the guy with the bomb up his butt?
No, he's the bomb diffusing guy.
Is he the one who becomes a ghost?
No, that's a different guy altogether. He gets blown up at the end. Not the ghost, not Denny, not the ghost guy.
Coach Taylor.
Coach Taylor gets blown up at the end.
You might also know him as the guy who got a newspaper delivered by God.
One day early, an early edition.
Yeah.
It wasn't God, it was just a cat.
A cat who was sent by God.
Yeah.
It was on the PAX network. It had to be at least kind of Christian.
I think they rerun it. They rerun on the PAX network, but it existed before the PAX network.
Well, yeah. The PAX network didn't. Did they have original? I assumed it was just, Touched by an Angel and I guess the 700 Club.
I don't know if they do original programming, actually, now that you mention it. Early edition, I feel like, is... Well, wait, I don't want to say it now because I haven't watched it since it first aired, but I used to watch it every week when it first aired, and I enjoyed it at the time.
I bet they didn't run that episode of Touched by an Angel where the Irish lady's like, by the way, God's okay with gay people. I almost did the accent, and then I was like, you know what? Jon Stewart is right.
The episode with the bomb is a two-parter. Do you want to do both parts?
I'm paid more than 3 times what the black actress is paid. I was still being the Irish lady from Touched by an Angel.
Yeah.
Which, that's a really, really fucked up thing to do. They were co-stars in that show. I mean, I know the Irish girl was like the main angel or whatever, but
so Friends was the first time when the cast like publicly, I don't know whatever happened behind the scenes in different shows, but they very publicly united to say we all need to be paid the same. So anything pre-Friends, it's just business as usual. And honestly, post-Friends too, but Friends was the one where they were like, no, we're going to go to bat for each other. We are all the stars here. No one shines brighter.
And I know like the black lady from Touched by an Angel was like the mentor character, so she was, you know, less of the central character, but like the main lady was paid like 3 times more. Like, it was a ridiculous amount more than her.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm sorry, you're still talking about Touched by an Angel, and I'm just thinking about what episode of Grey's Anatomy we're going to do. I think we're going to do the one where Izzy cuts Denny's LVAD wire.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, I have to talk about this too. Also, I found out Ben Schwartz makes like less than basically everyone else who's in the Sonic movies, even though he's Sonic.
What? Well, I guess he only has to show up for like a single day.
Yeah, and get all of his lines out of the way, and he doesn't have to be there like physically. But it feels weird that he's the titular character, and yet he's making less than James Marsden, and you know what? I would see Jim Carrey making more, but like.
Okay, sure, but in Jury Duty, the one guy who doesn't know it's real, when he's talking to James Marsden about the Sonic movie, is like, oh yeah, I heard that sucked. And then when he looks it up later, he's like, oh, I didn't know Ben Schwartz was in it. He's awesome. Says that to James Marsden's face.
I'm glad Ben.
That makes up for all of the money Ben Schwartz didn't make, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm glad Ben Schwartz is getting paid. I enjoy Ben Schwartz and stuff.
I like him in everything he's in.
Yeah.
When we're done with this recording, I might turn on the episode of After Party that's from his point of view.
Charmed. My God, we went so off track there. So
you know what's really funny? Max thinks I'm kidding about the Grey's Anatomy thing, but I'm totally not.
I'm very aware that you're not. So, Leo orbs out of the scene because when you are a white lighter, or I guess an elder, you can just leave a conversation whenever you want. No one can stop you. He's like, well, Chris, I would love to hear you talk more about why I should be boning my ex-wife, but I'm going to leave and talk to the elders about, you know, sending you back to the future. Ooh, back to the future.
That's like the reason to be a white lighter.
And Chris is like, okay, I'm going to follow him and yell at him until he has sex with my mom, and he starts orbing out. And Phoebe's like, I wish you wouldn't do that. And Ginny's like, done. And she does the I Dream of Jeannie arms crossed, like, blink thing. Which, not to smack talk Barbara Eden, but...
The blink isn't as cool as the nose twitch?
Yeah, the nose twitch from Samantha Stevens. You know, Elizabeth Montgomery was... Okay, I'm going to say a bunch of... Mean might be too...
About Elizabeth Montgomery?
No, about Barbara Eden by comparing her to Elizabeth Montgomery.
Okay, because she was like... She's an icon.
Yeah, no, exactly. Elizabeth Montgomery was an icon. She was beautiful. She could act. She could do that nose thing. Like, whenever people are like...
She vocally supported gay rights before it was politically safe to do so.
Yeah, we watched a lot of Bewitched for WandaVision, which...
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, you know what, I don't regret. I regret watching all of Full House for WandaVision.
I could do some more Bewitched, honestly.
Yeah.
I still someday want to do the project where we do a reimagining of Bewitched.
And it's an incredibly gay show for the time it came out in.
Yeah, my reimagining of it is just making the subtext text.
Mine wouldn't be, because I think that it does need to focus around a heterosexual couple. I feel like you can make everyone else in Samantha's family gay.
Yeah.
But I feel like Darren needs to be a dude.
That's true. And I guess it is still subtext, but the story of a, woman being forced to suppress her powers, like, I feel like let's bring that subtext to text.
Honestly, my ideal cast, we've talked about this before, you can tell. My ideal cast for it would have Judy Greer as the Samantha Stevens character and Paul Rudd as Darren.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, here's the thing. I really want Judy because I love her, right?
Yes.
It feels like I'm shunting her aside. But no, I love her, but I still want her to be the neighbor. Cause I just feel like
Gladys.
she could pull that off so well.
But,
and plus, remember, I don't know about your version, but in my version, we discover she's a witch hunter.
I mean, that would make sense. You would also really need to make Darren less of a dick for a modern adaptation to work.
Casting Paul Rudd would do a lot towards that.
Yeah, you just have him be a pleasantly average guy. And, you get your Paul Rudds or your Adam Scotts, a guy who can be the good, solid love interest guy.
We just talked about how awesome Elizabeth Montgomery is.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can't even dreamcast a new Samantha Stevens because she'd have to measure up to Elizabeth Montgomery. But I think I might do Rose McIver.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. See, that's one of the reasons I went with Judy Greer, because I feel like you have to do a different take on the character.
Yeah,
for it to work.
Rose McIver's basically the same take.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Also, both of the Darrens were gay in real life.
I know. There was that cast, that whole cast was astonishingly queer.
Yeah. Except, of course, for notable heterosexual Paul Lynde.
Do we want to talk about every single show except for Charmed?
We really liked this episode.
Okay, so Paige comes in and is
Wait. Chris is orbing out, and Phoebe says, I wish you wouldn't do that. Phoebe, is it your first goddamn day?
Oh my god. She made a whole deal. She made a whole big deal about how they know that genies are tricksters and she's not going to be tricked into wishing for anything. And then she fucking makes a wish.
Yes, so now Chris can't orb, which, thanks, Phoebe.
Anyway, Paige comes in and she's
talking about, oh no, my boyfriend has a magic addiction and he keeps blorping jewelry and fancy clothes onto me, and this is an issue for some reason.
Okay, no, that's an issue.
I mean, I guess
she can't just be out and about in the world with her clothes magically changing. Also, she picked the outfit she picked because she knew what her day entailed. You can't just magically put her in a cocktail dress.
Yes.
What if she was on top of a ladder when you did that?
I mean, I don't think Paige would ever be on top of a ladder, but yeah.
But Phoebe's like, weren't you going to bind his powers? And she's like, yeah, for some reason, though, he doesn't want me to bind his powers. Speaking of Samantha and Darren, by the way, what is this whole Darren thing happening?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ginny's like, hey, so the demon who was trying to use my powers was trying to use them to raise a secret city full of evil magical dogs or something. It's, you know what?
It's the MacGuffin. When the city rises, then the demons will win or whatever.
Yeah. So.
It's the Sozins Comet.
Yes. Richard, from his house, blorps Paige into a very, very pretty evening dress.
But again, what if she planned to do physical labor that day?
I mean, what if she was out at the grocery store or whatever?
I mean, it's actually the kind of badass thing that I could see Rose McGowan doing is wearing a cocktail dress to go grocery shopping just because she felt like it.
So, Phoebe, interestingly enough, I don't actually think they reference having a limit on wishes in this episode. Because I feel like Phoebe does use 3 and then nothing happens.
Huh.
Because she wishes that Chris gets his orbing back, so she's already burned through 2.
I think you're right. I think there is no limit to wishes. And there's also no restrictions on wishes. There's no, you can't raise the dead, thank goodness, for this episode's writing. There's no, you can't make someone fall in love with you.
You can kill people with the genie, which I think was just a thing in the Disney movie.
I know that was just the Disney movie, but I feel like most stories do put some limits on what you can and can't wish for, just for story purposes, just so they can tell whatever story they're telling.
I mean...
And also so they don't have to worry about consent issues, which this episode is not worried about, apparently!
I do remember in the X-Files episode with the genie, which is one of the very few X-Files ones I've seen, Mulder immediately wishes for world peace. It's the first thing, and she kills everyone on Earth.
Exactly.
And which she's like, there, no more war. And he's like, I feel like you knew what. And she's like, look, I just make them happen. And this was the easiest way to get to world peace. And I wish we'll take the path of least resistance. It's like electricity.
Oh, okay. That is interesting about a wish, because the representation of genies in a lot of stories, in the Monkey's Paw stories, and also here in Charmed, is that it is the genie willfully misinterpreting the wish. Are you looking at how long we've been recording?
No, I was making sure it was still going.
Okay. Because it's been going for so long.
And we are not very far into the episode.
Okay, so Piper's getting it on, but unfortunately it's with Fireman Greg instead of Leo. The only time I will ever say that sentence. And so poor Chris is about to be half firefighter instead of half white lighter.
I love Chris. I feel like they switched actors on Fireman Greg. But
yeah, I should have looked that up, but it turns out I don't care about Fireman Greg enough to do that.
Same. I don't care enough about this dude to look it up. He is more of Apollo than Neighbor Dan was. And Neighbor Dan was like a dictionary definition Paulo.
From Friends.
From Friends. The fake love interest that you write into your story only to kill off halfway through the book. So Piper's really mad at Chris for interrupting her bone session with Fireman Greg in his shitty fireman apartment.
It's fine.
I mean, it's fine. He lives in San Francisco. It's an expensive city, but like...
There's nothing wrong with that apartment.
I don't know. Plus,
why would he have a big apartment? If he's a fireman, he's at the station as much as he's at home. If not more.
Yeah, that is accurate. Okay, Fireman Greg, your apartment is acceptable. It's just... It feels weird to have someone in their late 20s or early 30s having that, like, empty bachelor apartment.
I think he was going for more of a severe brutalist aesthetic than dorm room.
It just makes me think of the, giant TV and one or two chairs pointing at the TV and then a futon in the corner.
Okay.
Like, I'm like, do you want to have sex here, Piper? It can't smell great.
I mean, it looks like it smells fine because it looks like there's nothing in there.
Yeah, point. So the main demon, Bosk, for this episode, he's like, "Arg, I wish I had my genie," or whatever. I'm a bad guy, but I'm not the main bad guy, so don't feel too threatened by me.
He's like, why are all of these witches always getting in my way?
He says, he's like, why were there witches in the Middle East where we are? We're still not naming countries. We're just in the Middle East. But also, like, are there no witches in the Middle East? Is that not a thing? I would imagine there are witches everywhere.
Well, there must be, because he goes to a market, like a underground demon bazaar, and finds a guy who sells him a charm that makes him immune from witch magic. So, like, maybe that's why there aren't witches anymore.
Because these guys they have a whole system ready to deal with witches.
I mean, I was about to say, the point I was about to make was that they must have witches if they have that, protection against them. But maybe their countermeasures are so good that no, they don't have witches anymore.
American demons need to get off their asses.
Okay, so back in Paige's plot, she goes over to confront Richard in his evil study, I guess, right? Yeah. The potion room where evil magic happens.
And I mean, Paige's issue, Paige is like, look, I just want you to stop doing magic. And it's like, why? He
tells her that the reason he's doing this huge amount of magic, where he like keeps sapping her gifts, and apparently he's also been like tossing back potions like they're nothing.
It's because she went to him and was like, "Hey, I need to bind your powers," and he's trying to convince her that him having magic is a good thing.
But more importantly, not just like it's a good thing because he can give you things, but also that he can do a huge amount of magic and not turn evil.
Yeah, which. Yeah, like, And I feel like they never established why this is an issue.
I feel like we're firmly on the record of not getting or liking this particular development.
Yeah, because I really liked Richard. It was cool having a Charmed One love interest who was like another witch, who was just a magic guy who could...
Okay, I think the theme for this podcast episode is us answering our own questions.
Yeah.
He was another magic user in the Charmed universe, so he had to be taken out.
Yeah. If you're not a white lighter, you can't be a dude who uses magic in Charmed.
Gender non-specific. No one who does magic is allowed to stick around in Charmed unless they're a white lighter.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah. I mean, I know...
We only see, Wiccans who are out and about so that we can see them be killed by demons and then have to be saved by the Charmed ones.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, just human magic users have no place in the Charmed universe, apparently.
I mean, even Wyatt, like, the big thing with him is he going to become evil?
Yeah.
And yet binding his powers never comes up.
It does come up, and Piper rejects it. We did a whole episode about it last time.
Yes. So, Ginny is flipping through the Book of Shadows, pointing out all of the pages back on the binding Richard's powers horse. That was what that whole scene was about. And Richard's like, no, because my powers have been nothing but useful to you.
Also, they're a fundamental part of who I am.
Yeah, so, like... No.
Darren?
But yeah, Ginny's flipping through the book, pointing at all of the demons she used to work for, which is... They know the twist with her. Why have her touch the book at all? It doesn't add anything.
Right. They just have to explain later why she was able to touch it.
And it's not a good explanation.
Phoebe's trying to make some vanquishing potion, and Ginny's like, you know, you could just wish that you were making it, because it looks like you're having trouble with your potions. And Phoebe's like, you won't fool me that easily. Which is fair, but I guess she also had heard about Phoebe, so she figured she would fall for anything.
So, they found Bosk in the Book of Shadows. Despite being a low-level demon with low-level powers, he got his own ass page in the Book of Shadows.
Right?
He got a color illustration, which not everyone does.
Piper is up in the attic with them, and she must be very cold because she is wearing a giant pregnancy-hiding shawl.
I mean, I've been enjoying her line of pregnancy hiding shawls, sweaters, and large scarves.
I mean, I was making a joke, but yeah, it is. I would knit that. It looks cute.
I mean, I'm honestly not sure why more shows don't do this instead of, like, holding signs and stuff. Just have your actresses wear capes. It's not that... Like, honestly, if I didn't know Holly Marie Combs was pregnant, I would have just assumed this was the style they chose for her this season.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Alright, so...
Phoebe puts Ginny back in the bottle because she doesn't want to risk accidentally wishing more, I guess.
Although, she doesn't have to be out of the bottle for you to make a wish, as evidenced by the wish Phoebe makes.
Yeah, also, like, it's not really that hard to avoid the phrase, I wish.
I mean, you say that now!
I guess if I'm ever in... It's probably one of those, like, don't think of a white elephant things.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, if someone puts it in your mind, then you're more likely to say it. But they send Piper away. I love how little Piper is invested in this. She's like, you called me away from having sex with Fireman Greg. Do you actually need my help? And Chris is like, why don't you just wait in your room and we'll call you when we need you? And she's like, could have been waiting in Fireman Greg's dick.
And Phoebe's like, no, go ahead, go back and have sex with him. And Chris is like, why are you telling her to do this? Did you forget our previous conversation, or are you actively trying to unalive me?
I mean, that is where we get his excellent, I don't want to be half firefighter.
Yes.
Chris is really getting his ass kicked this season because Bosk flies in through the window and just knocks him over with the flying carpet.
Again, it's just an incidental, attack that he gets. So yeah, Bosk flies in. He's got the amulet on, so Phoebe can't vanquish him with the vanquishing potion. That is a powerful ass medal.
Yeah. So she's like, Ginny, I wish you free. And Ginny grants the wish even though she's in the bottle. And so I guess she did do 3 wishes, but the last one was letting her free.
And then Ginny comes out of the bottle, and instead of wearing the Barbara Eden outfit, she is now wearing, like...
Black on black on black.
Yeah, she raided Faith's closet.
Yeah, so she burns the guy to death with fire, and she's like, who's the master now? And Piper comes up, and she's like, oh, gosh. I do like that Chris just telekinetically yoinks the bottle away from Ginny.
Yeah.
And Ginny's like, oh, fine, whatever. And she jumps on the carpet and flies out the hole in the wall.
And since Chris is the one who grabbed the bottle, that means that Jeannie Phoebe now serves Chris. And it's super creepy because, you know, now she is, like, forced, like, she is compelled by the spell to call him master. And it's like, that's creepy.
We skipped over it at the beginning of the episode, but there's a great bit where she asks Chris, she's like, I didn't ever hit on you before I found out you're my nephew, right? And he's like, ew, no.
Which even though she totally did!
Yes, she very much did. But I can see him being like, you know what? We're breezing past that. Also, I killed a bunch of people, so we're just ignoring everything that happened at the beginning of the season. So she has Chris summon her out of the bottle, and Holly Marie Combs can't keep it straight. She's like, you look so stupid right now.
Okay, Phoebe is horrified that she's being forced to wear this outfit, but I will point out she voluntarily wore the exact outfit except in pink in season 1 when she was working at that hotel.
It's great. She's like, oh, I hate the outfits. Why do I always, I hate the outfit so much. And Piper's like, yeah, you look really, really stupid. And Phoebe's like, why do I always get the wig? And Piper's like, trust me, you don't. Which really feels like I appreciate that they're doing more meta stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun. It's fun that they're kind of poking at the fourth wall here. It's fun that they're acknowledging a lot of the, goofy stuff.
Okay, speaking of the goofy stuff, I think this is my favorite moment in the episode.
Yeah.
Phoebe's like, that thing should come with a label, and Leo, who has been summoned, picks it up, and it's like, it does. It says right here, if you free the demon, Genie, you become the genie. And
reading is fun. Demental.
It's not in a language that Phoebe can read, but he's like, Chris, as White Lighter, you had one job, and that was read the bottle before Phoebe had to wear this ridiculous outfit.
Why is Chris still their White Lighter? They know he's not actually a White Lighter, although I guess Paige technically has to do White Lighter stuff.
Yeah, Paige has charges. It makes sense that he would too, even though he's half White Lighter.
Yeah, I don't know. Not a great system. Especially
Wait. Some of the bureaucracy in the world of Charmed is bad and doesn't make sense? Surely not.
Chris is, I'm not going to say enjoying this, but Phoebe starts, lecturing him, and he's like, hey, can you not do that? And she's like, oh, you're my master, so I can't go against you. And he's like,
it's basically Ella Enchanted now.
Yeah, he's like, okay, well, I could probably work this to my advantage.
Phoebe says, how can I be forced to take orders from you and stay in charge? And he's like, you can't, Phoebe. That's the point of this episode.
So Leo's like, well, you're not going to have to worry about it very long, because I've talked to the elders about sending Chris back to his time period. And Chris is like, Jesus Christ, I wish you would just get over your dumb issues with me. Which, he made a wish.
Yeah, Leo's like, okay, I'm over my issues with you.
Come here, buddy. This is one of the... I feel like Brian Krause is generally not a great actor, and his friendly thing is very off-putting. I very rarely give Drew Fuller credit for acting, but he is head and shoulders above Brian Krause in this episode.
Mm-hmm. So, because of everything that's happening, Piper calls Paige and is like, come home, we need you here. And she's like, I can't. I'm having an intervention for Richard where I have summoned his dead, bloodthirsty relatives to come here in ghost form and berate him for just trying to live his life.
Also his regular brother, who's not dead.
Yeah.
So...
they're all like, Dear Richard, your magic has harmed me in the following ways. And I'm
not at all.
I'm sorry, the rest of this page is blank. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, like... the whole thing is bizarre, because Paige is like, they've seen what happens to you when you use magic, and they don't want it. And nothing happens when he uses magic. The reason that his dead relatives died from magic was because they were in a pointless generation-spanning feud over nothing. It wasn't because of magic, it's because they were dicks.
Dear Richard, your magic has harmed me in the following ways. You were so focused on your magic that you didn't even say anything about the fact that I bought Jim Davis, creator of Garfield's house. You okay?
Yeah, it's a funny bit.
That's a reference to,
I Think You Should Leave. Which was Tim Robinson being like, oh, what? I'm not funny enough for SNL? Fuck you. I'm going to do my own sketch comedy show that's going to be funnier than anything SNL has ever done, ever.
I mean, I think it's my favorite sketch comedy show of all time.
Yeah.
It is hilarious.
It is really good. Also, if you like it, you should go back and watch Detroiters.
Do you know that I'm doing a Detroiters rewatch right now?
I didn't. It's so good. And
it is so funny.
Not enough people have watched Detroiters. And there's a lot of DNA of I Think You Should Leave. I think about that, the wigs that are definitely not made from corpse hair.
Devereaux. I told you I'm doing a rewatch right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
We're being shut down. They found out that our wigs were being made from corpse hair.
There are a lot of moments in Detroiters where I'm like, oh yeah, that could be a sketch on I Think You Should Leave. But also, I feel like on I Think You Should Leave, like the Fenton's horse stable commercial the Detroiters is about ad execs who make like late night TV commercials. So yeah, the Fenton Stables commercial could be a commercial on Detroiters.
So the guy who keeps on mentioning that he wiped Tim Robinson's butt when he was a baby, and he's like, "Why do you keep mentioning that? Did they call you specifically? Who are you? Why do you keep bringing that up? I don't know who you are."
We are literally going to talk about every show that has ever existed except for Charmed.
Well, it's because this intervention is bullshit, which Richard points out. He's like, when has my magic been anything but helpful to you? I was the one who saved you because I recognized that the potion that, like, fake knight guy gave you was going to blow you up. When has this ever been a negative on this show? And his brother's like, our family died because of the magic.
No, your family died, as Max pointed out, because they were all assholes.
Yeah, like, it was just the Hatfields and the McCoys, but with magic. The Hatfields and the McCoys were just shooting each other with guns. That's what you would have done if you didn't have magic.
And then, just as Whitelighters realize that they can orb away from conversations they don't want to have, Richard realizes that he can magically shimmer away. And he does so.
So, Ginny has gone to the marketplace and she killed a couple of guys who doubted her since she used to be a genie. And now she's going to do Bosk's plan. She's going to raise the city of demons or whatever and blah, 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 take over the world.
Yes.
But she needs a genie to do it.
Mm-hmm. She has become the leader of the people who frequent this marketplace, apparently.
Yes. You walk through the front door, you kill the first two people who speak, and then you draw a penis on the whiteboard. And that's how you become the editor of Vogue.
It's true. It was people, though.
It was people.
Because she was choosing the sexiest man alive.
Yeah, which people are still doing that, right?
Yes, people still does the sexiest man alive.
I remember when they did Blake Shelton, and it's like, oh, so this is just something you pay for then.
Well, I feel like they acknowledged that to some extent in the TV show that we're talking about now, Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
But, like...
Okay.
So...
Can we talk about identical ancestors?
Yes?
Chris is just as bad at not covering magical shit as Phoebe is. Because he goes upstairs and Leo's writing him an apology letter because he's had a magical change of heart. And Chris is like, I don't need another letter from you. I got enough of them growing up, Leo.
I got enough of them from my father, who's not you.
He's as bad at hiding who he is as Phoebe is.
Also, Chris just wished that Leo would get over his issues with Chris What's this weird writing an apology letter thing? Just don't be a dick to Chris anymore if you're not having issues with him. I mean, I get him feeling guilty about being a dick in the past, but, like, an apology letter? Really?
Yeah.
Also, Leo, you could fucking orb. You couldn't drop by Earth to hang out with your kids sometimes. I fail to believe that the time you spent writing letters couldn't have just been spent orbing and, like, playing catch with Chris every once in a while.
Maybe Wyatt wouldn't have gone evil if he had had a catch with his dad. Did you ever think about that, Leo?
So, yeah. Chris is talking about his daddy issues to his daddy. And Leo pulls up a chair and he's like, "Wanna talk about it, champ?" And Chris is like, "Hey, no. You know what I want you to do? I want you to go downstairs and bone Piper." And Leo's like,
no, she seems stressed. And Chris is like, that's because she's not getting enough boning.
"Yeah, go downstairs and bone Piper." And Leo's like, and Chris points out, she's like, "Look, I know that you still love her. You have the same basic relationship you had when you were together. What's the issue?" And Leo's like, "It's just not going to happen, dude. I'm sorry. I know you're weirdly obsessed with the two of us hooking up, but it's not going to... It would require some sort of magical intervention for the two of us to have sex."
And then Chris meaningfully looks at his genie bottle. You know, this is why you do the math before you time travel. Otherwise, you're going to end up trying to convince your parents to have sex with each other, and no one wants to be in that situation.
So Phoebe's been backseat witching Piper. She's like trying to instruct Piper on how to write the vanquishing spell. She's like, "Oh, that won't work. Genie's an upper level demon. And oh, are you sure? Maybe you should invoke blah, blah, blah." And Piper's like, "I'm sorry. Unless you really, really suck at writing a spell, Phoebe, it's not that hard to write a vanquishing spell. Mm-hmm. Back off." Paige orbs in, and she immediately bursts out laughing when she sees how Phoebe's dressed.
Again, this is one of those situations where it's like, I don't know. Does Phoebe dress any less
stupid
in, her day-to-day life?
But, yeah, they're mocking, they're laughing, they're pointing at her.
They're bringing up the fact that she looks exactly like Barbara Eden.
Yeah. So, their plan weirdly involves one of the ghosts from Richard's family.
Oh, so when Piper called her and found out that she was having a ghostly intervention, Piper was like, "Good, because we need someone to possess someone else, so when your intervention's done, ask one of the ghosts to come back here with us."
Yeah, she's like, "We need a ghost to possess Jenny because that'll make vanquishing her easier." This doesn't make any sense. It'll make sense later in the episode when they need a ghost to possess Jenny, when Jenny has the bottle to, use her wishes.
You're right. I don't know what their plan could have possibly been prior to Jenny taking the bottle.
Yeah, like, if your plan is to just vanquish her, then just show up with the vanquishing spell. Why would you need a ghost for that?
But the vanquishing spell wouldn't have worked because she would have been wearing the amulet. Really, there was no way to vanquish her without her taking the bottle.
I guess that would be the ghost thing, right? You have the ghost possess her, take off the amulet then.
Oh, perhaps. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, she also grabbed the anti-witch amulet before flying off on the... I was going to say maybe Chris should have telekinetically yoinked that, but I guess he couldn't because witch-proof.
Yeah.
Could Paige orbit? It's a white lighter thing, right? I guess the orbiting objects is a witch power, though.
You're right, because it is related to the charm telekinesis power. Like, it's how it manifested with Paige.
Not Chris, though.
Yeah. So I think that, yes, she would not have been able to orbit to her because it is immune from witch powers. Yeah.
So Chris pulls Phoebe to the side. He's like, "Hey, so I'm running out of time, so I want my parents to sleep together."
Chris, is it your first day? Also, he has not been talking euphemistically about them having sex before, so it's the worst time to decide to be a prude about it, Chris.
In the words of Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, bone!
Now Piper and Leo are just asleep next to each other.
I mean, if you're gonna wish, why not just, "I wish Piper was pregnant with me."
Okay, that seems nightmarish, though, on its own.
Virgin birth.
Yeah.
I wish my parents were back together and had a healthy sex life.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know a way to do this that isn't a consent nightmare. I think your best bet is just to talk to them like they're rational human beings. But the problem there is that it's Piper and Leo.
I mean, I feel like I wish my parents would get over whatever issue is keeping them apart.
I don't know. Telling someone to get over something, that feels violating of their mind. Yeah, I really can't think of a good way to do it because, as we have said on many, many, many occasions, there's no obstacles between Leo and Piper, so there's nothing you can wish for other than make them stop acting like, you know.
Because as he points out, they both clearly still do love each other, and honestly, the past few episodes have seemed like they were heading towards a reconciliation.
Yeah.
Or not even that, like, just stop not being not together. So Ginny's forces attack. She's got 40 demon warriors, except 2 less because she had to kill 2.
4 less because Phoebe killed 2.
Yeah. So the dudes with the swords come in and they're all fighting and, swordsing and stuff.
But the charmed ones are kicking ass because they're the charmed ones, so it doesn't matter how many soldiers you have.
Chris is holding his own pretty well. I love how... Wait a sec. Richard can use his powers against Ginny.
Oh, actually, she doesn't have the amulet. I just thought she should have it.
Yeah, I thought she had it too, but she doesn't. Why do they need the fucking ghost?
I'm telling you, they don't need the ghost. Anyway, the bottle goes flying. Ginny almost gets it, but then Richard uses his powers and he grabs the bottle. So now Phoebe Genie is serving Richard.
Yes. Also, they've trapped Ginny in a crystal cage.
Okay, Richard shimmers away with the bottle. That is not the way to build trust. I have been against Paige for this whole thing, but Richard, come on.
So Ginny's like, you can't keep me in here forever. And Paige is like, I mean, I'm believing you for some reason, but like, we haven't seen anyone bust out of a crystal cage, have we?
We've seen people walk through the room and accidentally kick a crystal, and that's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, point. Also, I guess that one time when they got the source, but he had Paige's powers, he just orbed the crystals away.
Oh, yeah. If you can orb crystals or move them telekinetically, then yeah.
How does anyone get trapped in a crystal cage?
Right? Alright, so...
Paige walks into the room to see Piper and Leo passed out next to each other. And she's like, what happened here? And Chris is like, I made a little wish. And Paige is like, what wish? And he's like, well, 2 actually. 1, I wished for Leo to forgive me and for Piper and Leo to sleep together. And Paige is like, oh, you pervert. Which,
right?
I mean, I guess. Like...
She, at this point, this is when he reveals that he is their child and that he wants to exist. But remember, Paige doesn't know that yet. She doesn't know who Chris is. Yeah. So he's just some guy from the future who's like, I just wanted to see these 2 people go at it.
I'm sorry, but if you don't know what Chris's deal is at this point, how do you not? He's from the future. He's half witch, half white lighter. He has one of the Warren powers as his primary power. Like, it feels like willful ignorance to not get what his deal is.
Mm-hmm. But he has now revealed it to Paige, so one day after saying no one can know, he's told another person.
And Paige is like, I don't have time for this, Chris. I need to strip Richard of his powers because... I'll lose him to evil forever if he keeps having magic.
Well, okay, to be fair, he did shimmer away with her sister, so that is... She does, as far as the it's important right now moments.
I guess. I also really like the, weird green shirt she's wearing, the off-the-sleeve green shirt. It's a very nice look on her.
Mm-hmm.
But, you couldn't have thrown in an episode where magic is actually corrupting him. You couldn't have had it actually actively corrupting him in this episode.
I was going to say, I think this is the episode.
Except he's not, kicking puppies or using he's not doing any of the Willow in season 6 shit. with Willow, we got why she needed to stop. She mind-controlled Tara to get out of an argument, which is a shitty, awful thing to do to someone.
Well, I mean, Chris just mind-controlled Leo, and that's not considered something that he needs to have his powers bound over.
Yeah.
By the show, by, like, the morality of the show.
And the thing Richard is trying to get Phoebe to do, he's looking for a way to... I love that he has a guide for how to phrase wishes for genies.
And he's in his family vault, so clearly this is a thing his relatives sat around and were like, okay, let's get that language right.
And the entire reason he took the lamp was because he wants to use Phoebe's genie magic to make Paige not constantly be up his ass about using magic all the time. Which, okay, is this his Willow mind-wiping Tara moment for, you know...
Here's the thing. It is, because when Paige confronts him and is like... Because, you know, Paige shows up because she's looking for Phoebe and to yell at Richard. When she shows up and is like, what were you about to wish? He's like, wow, that was a really shitty thing I was about to do. Like, he immediately is like, oh, I have gone too far. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Has a Halliwell ever gone, oh, wait, I've gone too far?
No! And they do things that are, A, on that level and way worse. I mean... Honestly, how is this worse than the, like, truth-telling spell?
So,
I mean, I guess it isn't, is it? That whole, you know, you can ask anyone any question and they'll forget, you know, a day later.
Yeah, that's problematic. Okay, so, back at the Manor, Fireman Greg has shown up. And Chris kind of telekinetically nudges Leo and Piper closer together while they're asleep so that when Fireman Greg walks in, he sees them cuddled up on the couch together and he's like, oh, I'm not going to ask any questions or stick around long enough to see that they can't be roused and therefore something is seriously wrong. I'm just going to leave and be out of Piper's life forever.
I love how Chris throws his arm over Fireman Greg and he's like, so, feeling pretty cucked right now, huh, bro? Goodbye, Fireman Greg. You were pointless and you sucked.
Go back to the cornfield with neighbor Dan.
So, Ginny, having been left in the room all by herself, uses the flying carpet to nudge one of the crystals out of the way. And, you know, just walks out with a fireball. And she's like, hey, so you're going to let me go? Or I'm going to fireball these two sleeping people. And Chris isn't like, you know... I'm still telekinetic. You could telekinetically throw her. Richard did, and you're definitely more powerful than him. I'm assuming, because he's, you know, got the whole Warren thing going on. You have telekinesis, Chris. You don't need to just do what she says.
Especially when you have that much of a warning.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Back at Richard's place, Richard feels super bad for what he was about to do.
Well, he feels bad because when Paige reached for the bottle, he telekinetically pushed her out of the room. Which, I'm sorry, like... Again, it's not great. You shouldn't push people you're dating. But, like, by the standards of the Charmed ones, this is a nothing burger.
Yeah, he didn't freeze her in the middle of sex.
Mm.
So, he realizes what must be done... and wishes Phoebe free, imprisoning himself in the bottle.
Note, he doesn't have to put on the sexy outfit.
Yeah! That's some bullshit, by the way. He should absolutely be having to wear the sexy outfit. Unless the outfit that you get when you get trapped in the bottle is based on your understanding of what a genie wears. And so, of course, Phoebe is dressed like the only genie she knows, Barbara Eden.
Do you think he knows, like, other genies? And
he's like, I'm dressed like Seth, the genie I went to college with.
So, yes, Ginny blorps to Richard's house. She gets the bottle. But now, Richard's the genie because he freed Phoebe. And Ginny wishes the Charmed One's dead. And blorp, uh-oh, Paige and Phoebe are dead. Also Piper. But she's not here, so we can't... She's not here, and she's asleep, so we can't, you know, see her death. I'm sorry. We're very much in the death doesn't matter at all stage of Charmed. remember a few episodes back when Phoebe and Paige were, killed and their souls just went back into their bodies and then they weren't dead anymore?
Yes. Here, instead, their souls rise out of their bodies, but they just chilled there. I just want to point out that if Richard hadn't done what he did, she wouldn't have been able to make that wish. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, over at the Manor, when Piper's ghost rises out, it's like, Leo, save me! And then Leo, even though he's asleep, is like, okay.
Yeah,
He heals her in his sleep.
So, Paige and Phoebe don't move on. They're just ghosts. And they're confused about why they're not moving on. And Chris is like, why are you looking this gift horse in the mouth?
Chris is like, I don't know, it's some Charmed One's bullshit. Isn't that always the answer?
And they immediately start fighting about the fact that Phoebe didn't tell Paige that Chris is their nephew.
She knew for like an hour before all of this nonsense started.
But yeah, now that they're ghosts, they can possess Jenny and, make her free Richard and trap her back. So now there's a reason for them to need ghosts.
But by the time there's a reason for them to need ghosts, they already are ghosts. So that whole diversion makes no sense.
Yeah.
Also, apparently ghosts can haunt anyone, and all they have to do to travel to that person is think about them. That is not my understanding of how ghosts work.
I mean, it's Charmed, so whatever.
Ghosts have very specific rules about what they are bound to.
I mean, not really in Charmed, though.
Oh, I just meant like...
Oh, in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you remember those two ghosts who wanted to get Leo because they blamed him for them getting blown up in World War II?
Oh, yeah.
So, they're all heading towards Jenny, who has successfully summoned the city with all of the magic demon dogs or whatever. And, wow, that sure is a CGI...
Oof, and this is 2001 CGI. This is not good CGI.
This is very Windows CD-ROM puzzle game-y.
Uh-huh. But before she can go into the city and enjoy her victory, the ghosts of Paige and Phoebe show up and are like, hey, we're here to haunt your ass. And one of us is going to possess you. And then, okay,
so Phoebe possesses Ginny. One of the demons rushes Chris, and Chris just telekinetically tosses him to the side. And then two more demons rush him, and he's like, Phoebe, help! And Ginny, Phoebe and Ginny's body fireballs them. Chris, did you run out of telekinesis points? You could telekinetically throw those dudes, too.
Anyway, now that Phoebe is possessing Ginny, she says, I wish the genie free. Now Richard is free, and Genie is back in the bottle.
And in that outfit.
Yes.
He wishes the Charmed Ones back to life, which, you know what? Clear, concise, straightforward, really hard to fuck with.
Which is interesting, because if anyone was going to fuck with it, it would be Ginny, because she just tried to kill them.
But I guess you can't... I wish the Charmed Ones were... I mean, you know what I would have done if I was Ginny? I would have brought Prue back.
Ooh. That could have been an interesting story if Charmed really had, like... I mean, it has obviously serial stories, but if it was more serialized and less episodic.
Yeah, because you know what would totally fuck with the power of 3? Having all 4 witches back.
Yeah.
That was literally a thing in the comics.
Oh, that's interesting. I really have to read these comics.
Good. They're not good. Because they're trying to make everything canon, which you can't with Charmed. You can't have everything that happened in Charmed be canon. So Richard gave up his powers, and also he's breaking up with Paige because, it will be too hard for him to be around someone who does magic.
Also, his magic is fundamental to him, and I don't see how you can be with Paige with her holding the position she does about his magic.
Yeah, yes, this relationship is not tenable long term. He was definitely Paige's best love interest. It really sucks that this is how they're choosing to write him out of the show. It sucks that they're choosing to write him out of the show.
Yeah, Leo got to stick around.
Yeah, just have him be her boyfriend that she doesn't see very often.
Or, that we don't see very often.
Yeah, no, she sees him all the time, but, we don't. He's with Ross's mom.
And
Where was
and
Wyatt
Emma.
this episode?
Yeah, there you go.
Like, it's not that hard to have, like, they should have kept him around. They never know what to do with Paige. Like, she's gonna get the whole magic school plot until they get bored with it, which is...
I mean, I can't let go of the fact that they have her end up with a cop.
She got her Andy.
Ugh.
But, like, Richard was such a good boyfriend, and this isn't it's, I guess, technically a Riley situation in that they found a contrived way to write him out of the plot when they could have just had him leave.
Do you think it's weird that, like, 2 episodes apart, they made one of the sisters do, like, a teary breakup scene?
Yeah, we just lost, speaking of Grey's Anatomy, we just lost Jason Dean, and now we're losing Richard. Which, one of these is a lot sadder than the other. Richard was such a good plot engine, too. Why are we always turning our backs on plot engines? But this is one of the most callous Phoebe moments. We go back to the Manor where, Leo and Piper are, beginning to wake up, and Chris is freaking out because he's about to disappear forever, and Phoebe's like, Chris, you're being so dramatic right now.
Yeah, no one has any regard for Chris trying to not stop existing.
So, Phoebe chooses not to tell them what happened. She's like, Ginny was a demon. She used her demon magic to put you to sleep. But don't worry, we vanquished her while you were asleep. Also, you died, but somehow got better. And Piper's like, oh yeah, I became a ghost, and Leo subconsciously healed me. So thanks for that, bro. You want to have sex next episode? And Leo's like, yeah, I like sex. Also, Chris nearly mentions the fact that he's their kid again. It's like you're not paying attention.
I'm telling you, identical ancestors, him and Phoebe. Neither of them know how to talk to other people without revealing all of their secrets.
It's a little weird that Piper's wearing a cross necklace. I mean...
Phoebe has a rosary tattoo.
I guess. And we know Grams went to church. I know we've talked about this before. It just seems like a weird note for her to be wearing a cross necklace.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like, as with Phoebe's tattoo, they're like, whatever, we don't care anymore.
Who gives a shit? Also, like, Leo goes off to get Wyatt with Piper, and, they give Leo the vase with Ginny in it so that he can do whatever he does with it. They're like, go find a volcano to throw this in.
Or take it up to White Lighter Land and put it in the vault, the Ark of the Covenant vault.
And that's the end of the episode. Like, Piper and Leo are in a better position, I guess, because Phoebe's like, well, you should be relieved that they seemed not pissed off to wake up next to each other, and I mean,
This is like, do I need to go over again what it means if they don't get together? Because I feel like you have not gotten the fact that I will die.
Also, they've been drifting together the past few episodes. Like, honestly, you don't need an outside force for them to... When they hook up next episode, it's not that weird that they do it.
I mean, it's not weird, but I don't know that I'm going to count on that if I,
Oh, if I was Chris. No, if I was Chris, like, it's not great, and yeah, it is consent issues ahoy, but I would probably be pursuing a magical way to get my parents to sleep together at this point.
So I feel like we should, kind of jump out of the episode into, I know we usually do this later, but next week's episode, because we are in fact talking about what next week's episode is.
All right, what's next week's episode?
Next week's episode is the courtship of Wyatt's father. And then the plot description on Peacock is, a dark lighter accidentally sends Leo and Piper to another plane of existence.
Where they bone. Alright, much like the Charmed ones, we have our own power of 3. The first power in our pack is Premonition. Who in this episode is, was, or will become famous? No one.
No one.
No one.
Yeah.
No one was anyone.
You know what's funny? I went through the IMDb page to kind of check and see if there was anyone of note that I might not be familiar with or that might be a blind spot to me. And I forgot to check if they recast Fireman Greg. How little we care about it.
Yeah. The second power in our pack is Time Freeze. What specifically dates this episode? I feel like there's a lot of choices they wouldn't have made in a modern show. There's a lot of race stuff that I probably wouldn't, you probably wouldn't see it. I can't imagine you would. Hopefully not.
You know, usually time freeze is something fun, like the technology. Oof.
Yeah. Telekinesis. What, if anything, genuinely moved you? I enjoyed this episode a lot, but I can't say anything, like, genuinely moved me.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it, but the tone was too insubstantial for me to be like, oh, that moment, that's what hit me.
I was pissed off the way that they broke up Paige and Richard. That emotionally affected me. It's supposed to be the big sad scene, but the whole time I was like, why are you breaking up?
Right?
Get a real problem. All right, I think that'll about do it for this week.
Yeah, I think it will. Our show is partially listener supported. If you want to be one of those supporters, you should head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 and above patrons: Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, Dan, Anthony, Daniel, and Hippolyta.
Ooh. If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode or any episode of any television show, you can find us at ilovetelevision@gmail.com, or you can find us on Blue Sky at Welcome to Television.
So until next time, I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And this has been Welcome to the Halliwell Manor.